Hello, lovely, and welcome to the Essence of Expression podcast. Get ready to explore insights, lessons, practices, and wisdom from life for life. I'm your host, Arejay, healer, teacher, student, and sage. I'm excited and honored to have you with me on this journey. Let's dive in. So the other day, I was realizing something, and I was seeing a pattern that's happening amongst people who identify as recovering perfectionists. And they're at a stage where they're desiring simplicity, but sometimes they're feeling stuck. And so I had posted a note to Substack, and it was, if you're a recovering perfectionist desiring simplicity, but find yourself unable to move forward, congratulations. You've done enough work for your being not to let your mind take you down the unaligned road. And I wanted to come here and expand on that. Mainly because I want people to understand what's happening, and then to also give you some questions to help you get out of that if that's where you are. So one of the things is, like, it can be really frustrating when you're wanting to move forward and you don't feel like you can. You feel like there's a piece to the puzzle that you're missing, like you're not seeing it, or just that, like, why can't I get this thing created, right? And first off, I would like to invite you, instead of being frustrated with it, to be grateful, right? Because it really is just a friction point that's happening, mainly because you are trying to create this in a way and from a standpoint that isn't aligned to what you're actually desiring. So a lot of the people I work with, they spent a lot of time in a very perfectionist mindset and way of operating, right? And when I say a long time, I mean most of them have probably been perfectionist or were perfectionists for 25 to 40-ish years, right, of their life. That was just make it pretty, make it perfect. If it's not perfect, it doesn't go out, etc. And they've stepped away from that. They moved away from that because they realized it was a lot of conditioning, a lot of worthiness wounding, and also a lot of them burnt out, right? And they were like, I don't want to work as hard. I don't want to be pushing so much that it jeopardizes my health, so much that I can't do things with the people I love because I'm too busy, building the business or just leading this project or whatever it is. And so they reached a point where I want to do it simple. They still want to do it well. But they want to be able to relax. And so what's happening is you've made this logical conscious decision that, okay, I'm going to do it simple because I'm not going to overperform, overbuild, overcomplicate. I'm just going to keep it simple so that I have room and space to breathe and can live the way I desire to live. And I still want to create this thing and have an impact. And you're also wanting to relax, right? That's part of why you're wanting the simplicity, is because you're wanting that space to breathe. You're wanting that ability to relax. And what's coming up and what's happening is that when we relax, right? When it's okay, we're not going to be as effortful, it's fine, and we're stepping back, the default patterns operate more. And if you've been running in perfectionism mode for 25 to 40 years, you have a much more deeply ingrained route of perfectionism than you do simplicity. So you're I'm trying to step back and relax. I want to do this simple. But default patterns kick in, and it's just okay, it's got to be perfect. It's got to be this. It's got to be this. It's got to be complicated. It's got to have this. That's not enough. It's got to be big. It's got to be all these things, right, that your mind is used to creating and you've been used to operating in for a much longer time than you've been operating in the simplicity mode, the calm, non-pressure mode. And it's just kind of grinding things to a halt. And that's fine. Like, it's not a problem, right? It's a problem if we make it a problem. But really, it's just, hey, this thing that you desire is not matching up with the way you're trying to create the thing that you desire. So we're going to pause, and you got to tell me which way to go. That's essentially what's happening. It's just all happening underneath the surface. So it doesn't really come to mind, and a lot of people miss it if they are inside of it, right? They might see it in others, but a lot of times we'll miss it in ourselves. And so with that, some of the questions, I want to give you 4 questions to ask yourself to kind of help you spot where this is occurring and to help you get moving in that simplicity direction. Because right now, you're probably overcomplicating the creation of whatever this thing is that you have in mind. So the first question is, what was the divine instruction given? Right? And I ask this because a lot of the people that I work with, like, there's a spiritual background there, right? And so we're not really operating from just our desires. Like, we get downloads, we get instruction, we hear spirit. And so what's happening is, like, there was an instruction given by spirit. Okay. What was that instruction that was given to you? Don't add anything to the instruction. Just what was the instruction as it came through from God, creator, spirit, universe, whatever term you want to use. What was the instruction? Now, the next question that we get to ask ourselves, where did my human step in and start complicating? So now that we've written what the divine instruction was, and we have that very clearly where we can see it, what all have you added that wasn't mandated in that instruction? Because some of that is probably unnecessary and might even be wrong. And a lot of times that's going to be in the how it's brought about. And sometimes it's going to be in the what the final thing looks like, right? At least this is a pattern I'm seeing in the people I'm working with, and I see in myself as well, is that it's because normally the divine instruction has a outcome, right? It'll have an outcome, and it may not have like the process. And sometimes it'll have a process and not necessarily the outcome, right? But what was separating out what the divine instruction was versus what like your conscious mind got a hold of and was like, let's just do this, and ran off on its own. The third question to ask, is there a bare bones version of what it is that I am trying to create that I can create that gets the job done? Right? And this is really just where we start to bring in the simplicity and allow the simplicity, because oftentimes there was, you may have already finished what you were meaning to build, and you haven't put it out because you had the thought like, oh, that's not enough. This needs more. And it doesn't. That's just like years of conditioning and the way you're used to operating and comparing your previous outputs to what you're outputting now that's talking very loudly to you. So is there a bare bones version that you can just create that accomplishes the mission? And if it is, whatever that looks like, can you go ahead and put that out in the world? The fourth question to ask is, am I choosing a method that honors my energy and the experience I desire to have while creating? And so this is the alignment piece, right? Because part of this stall that happens is sometimes you're like, I'm going to do it simple. I don't want to burn myself out, right? And everything hears that and it's like, okay, great. And then you go default to like, oh, this is the way you've built before, just because that's what you're familiar with and that's what's like safe and comfortable, and just we default to it. But that exact way that you built it before is what built you into burnout. And so again, the friction is like, whoa, wait, do you want to build that way again? Or do we actually want the space and want the relaxation and the simplicity? What are we doing? Pause. So making sure that it's not going to be something that is asking you to push yourself in detrimental ways. Like, yes, there will be effort. Effort is fine. Effort is required to some extent. But it's really, we want to watch out. So is it going to be pushing and forcing? And is it going to be something where like you have to perform, right? Where it doesn't feel authentic to you. You'd rather do this a different way, but maybe you're doing it either because that's the way you did it in the past, or because this is a new thing and when you look out, this is how the other people have done it. So you're just kind of following their lead. And then also like, what was the experience? Like when this idea first came to you, how did you feel when that idea hit and you thought of yourself creating this thing? And is the method that you're choosing still allowing you to have that experience? Because a lot of times what will happen is we will focus so hard on the outcome and getting to the outcome that we forget that we wanted to experience this in a particular way. And so we abandon methods that would allow us to feel and have that experience throughout the process of building. And we just kind of focus on like, okay, like how do I serve the people that this is going to serve? And it's a balance of serving the people that it's going to serve and also allowing yourself an experience that is enjoyable, right? That helps you grow. That whatever the experiences that you originally desired to have, right? So if you desired it to be like relaxed and expansive, but you're like, I'm going to get this out in like a week. Well, what are we doing? Why are we setting ourselves up to fail? Like there's a betrayal that's happening there. So that's just what I wanted to share. I wanted to share a little bit more, so that those of you who are recovering perfectionists and are experiencing this, one, have a different understanding of what's happening, and two, can take a step back and kind of sit with some questions to take a look at the situation and adjust. So if you take these questions and you're like, I got it, great, I'm good, and you run with it and it gets you out, wonderful. If you do these questions and maybe you feel like you don't have the answers, or there's still a piece that you are missing and don't know why you can't move forward, I invite you to apply for a clarity session with me, and I will drop the link. I'll keep the link in the description of the episode so that you can easily find it. Thank you for your time and attention. If you enjoyed this episode, follow the show. If someone came to mind while you were listening to this episode, please take a moment to share it with them. If you're interested in joining a community and diving further into these topics, please visit theessenceofexpression.com/community and request to join our community group. Thank you. I hope you have a wonderful rest of your night or day, and I'll talk to you soon. Take care.